I have like a little doubt in my mind about whether or not I'm the right person for you. She's trying to be vulnerable, and this gives me confidence.
Madeline stares at Luke, her voice trembling, eyes cold, and says she isn't sure if she's even the right person for him. The air between them doesn't move. You can feel the silence cutting through the room like glass. This isn't a fight anymore. It's the beginning of an ending neither of them wants to say out loud. I'm Sabrina, and you're watching TLC Drama Live. Hit subscribe if you've ever watched a couple on 90 Day Fiancé and thought, why are they still doing this to each other? Drop your take in the comments, because this one might be the most confusing love story yet. Luke sits across from her, trying to smile, trying to keep the camera-ready calm that's made him look patient for months. But even through the small talk, you can see it. His hands shake a little, the guilt of every argument written on his face. He's the kind of man who keeps saying sorry for things he doesn't understand, and she's the kind of woman who's tired of never being understood. They look like a couple about to plan a wedding, but every word sounds like a goodbye. Madeline starts listing the things she feels missing. Trust, peace, the spark that used to make her forget her past. Her tone is flat, practiced, almost like she's reading lines she's repeated in her head 100 times. And Luke, instead of reacting, folds into himself. He tells her he loves her. He says they can start over. You see him begging for normalcy while she's begging to be seen. The mismatch is painful. It's like watching two people speak different languages with the same heart. What if the person who promised to protect your peace becomes the reason you lose it? Their history flashes between quiet shots. The car ride where voices turned sharp, her face twisting in anger, his forced laughter trying to dissolve the tension. We don't hear every word, but we feel it. The way she talks over him, the way he shuts down. It's not just a bad day, it's a pattern. He nods, she commands, he apologizes, she questions his sincerity, and yet somehow they both call it love. Madeline turns to the camera and says she's difficult, but it's because of what she's been through. She mentions her childhood like a bruise she's still pressing on. Abandonment, broken trust, the feeling of always being left behind. The audience feels for her, because pain makes sense until it turns into punishment. Luke reaches out, takes her hand, and promises again to make things better. For a second, it almost feels real. But something in her eyes shifts. You can see the calculation, the fear, maybe even the guilt. It's not manipulation in the cartoon sense, it's survival. People who've lived through chaos sometimes recreate it because calm feels unnatural. Luke mistakes her tears for surrender when they're really a warning. And we, the audience, are left wondering, is this love or is this trauma wearing a wedding dress? Stay with me, because the truth about how they reached this breaking point is darker than it looks right now. And the moment that car door slammed wasn't the start. It was the result of everything they never fixed. When we rewind to their early days, it almost feels like another couple entirely. Luke and Madeline looked picture perfect on camera, laughing, teasing, doing that overly cute baby voice thing couples do when everything still feels easy. Their first few confessionals were full of giggles and dramatic eye rolls that fans called chemistry. But underneath the edits, if you watched closely, you could already see the imbalance forming. Madeline would interrupt him mid-sentence, correct his wording, or mock his nervous laugh. It looked playful at first, but the frequency told another story. And Luke? He laughed it off every time, brushing it aside like he didn't notice. But everyone watching knew he did. You remember that beach scene, right? They were sitting close, camera catching the sunset, and she told him he was cute when he's quiet. People thought it was flirtatious banter, but his expression shifted for half a second. Eyes darted down, lips tightened, a smile that didn't reach his face. That's how control often starts, hidden behind charm wrapped in a joke. He called her firecracker. She called him slow. Everyone laughed, but if you've lived through it, you can tell which one hurts more. Madeline's energy filled every frame. She was bold, loud, beautiful, unapologetically herself. Luke seemed proud of that at first. He would tell the camera he loved her independence, how she knew what she wanted. But you could sense that what he called confidence soon started feeling like dominance. Every time he offered an opinion, she shot it down with a sigh or an eye roll. When he made small mistakes, she would narrate them in real time, turning their life into a running commentary of his shortcomings. Funny how early love can hide red flags so well when you're busy calling them quirks. There was that one dinner scene where she got irritated because he didn't order fast enough. It wasn't the argument that stood out, it was his reaction. He froze. He didn't push back, didn't defend himself, didn't even smile this time. He simply said, "You're right," and looked down. And she rewarded it with affection, rubbing his arm, telling him he's learning. That's when it clicked for many viewers. He'd learned that peace only existed if he stayed small. The producers cut that sequence like a comedy bit. Playful music, quick edits, laughter from crew members off camera, but it wasn't funny. It was a preview of what was coming. The moments that fans posted as couple goals on TikTok, the matching outfits, the spontaneous kisses, the mock arguments, they were all happening under the same current of tension. Even their friends noticed. In group scenes, Luke would barely speak until someone else addressed him first. Madeline always answered for both of them. What's wild is how quickly public perception flipped. One month, people were shipping them hard, calling them the next big TLC success story. The next, Reddit was filled with posts dissecting her tone, his silence, their imbalance. Some said she was passionate, others said she was controlling. Both could be true, because the line between passion and power play is razor thin, and once you start talking down to someone who loves you, it stops feeling like personality. It starts feeling like domination. Luke told producers he loved that she kept him on his toes. You could almost hear the nervous laugh behind it. She smiled in every confessional, confident she had everything under control. But the unspoken truth? No one in a healthy relationship ever feels like they're walking on eggshells this early. What we were watching wasn't a honeymoon phase. It was an emotional storm dressed up as love, and soon that mask of playfulness would slip in front of everyone. The car ride that followed became one of those scenes you watch through your fingers because it's not entertainment anymore. It's emotional exhaustion on full display. Cameras roll as Madeline snaps at Luke for driving too slow, for missing a turn, for breathing wrong. Her tone is sharp, clipped, every word landing like a slap without contact. She tells him to hurry up, to think for once. And each time she says it, his shoulders drop a little lower. It's not a shouting match, it's precision. She's cutting him down one correction at a time while he keeps his voice low, muttering soft apologies that sound practiced. The silence between them feels heavier than their words. He tries to calm her, to make light of it, but that only fuels her anger. She throws him that look, the kind that ends conversations, and he folds. It's uncomfortable to watch because it flips the usual script. Viewers are used to seeing men in control, women defending themselves. Here, the roles are reversed, and the audience doesn't know how to react. Some laugh, some cringe, some defend her. But for anyone who's ever lived through a relationship built on small humiliations, it's impossible to call this love. If a man spoke to a woman like this on TV, would we still call it entertaining? Luke's voice barely rises above a whisper as he tries to explain himself. "I didn't mean to upset you," he says. And she cuts him off before he finishes. She accuses him of not listening, of being lazy, of acting like a child. The car becomes a cage, two people locked in a loop of control and submission. The camera catches him gripping the steering wheel tighter, his jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the road like it's the only escape left. And somehow, even then, he apologizes again. The irony is thick. Madeline says she's angry because she's tired of men disrespecting her, yet in this moment, she's repeating the same cycle she says she wants to end. It's hard not to feel empathy because pain repeats itself when it's never healed. Still, watching her direct that pain at Luke doesn't feel like justice. It feels like revenge dressed up as empowerment. He stays calm, too calm, maybe used to it by now. That's what's most disturbing. He doesn't argue, doesn't defend his dignity. He just nods and takes it, like this is how he believes relationships work. There's something hollow behind his eyes, that familiar look of someone who's decided keeping peace matters more than keeping self-respect. When someone stops fighting back, that's not harmony, it's surrender. But before we paint him as the helpless victim, there's more beneath his quiet act. Luke has his own history. Fans know his reputation isn't spotless. His past mistakes, the controversy surrounding him, and the way he leans into this nice guy image, none of it is accidental. It's how he stays in control while appearing powerless. It's his way of rewriting his own story on national TV. So what we're seeing in that car isn't one-sided cruelty. It's a performance built on two damaged egos, hers shaped by fear of abandonment, his by fear of accountability. Together, they make each other worse, not better. Every insult, every forced apology, every awkward silence adds another crack to something that was never built to last. The car finally stops, but the tension doesn't. She storms out, he stays behind, and for a second the cameras linger on him, small, silent, still trying to convince himself this can be fixed. The truth? It can't. Not until both stop confusing endurance with love. And that question we're left with, if this were any other couple, would we still excuse what we just saw? Doesn't fade when the screen cuts to black. It sticks, because whether you're Team Luke or Team Madeline, no one wins in a relationship built on apology and fear. When the noise fades and the show cuts to her confessional, Madeline's energy changes. The anger that burned in the car turns into something quieter. She talks about her childhood, how her mom left when she was 16, how her dad was barely there, how every man she's ever trusted eventually walked away. Her voice shakes, but she keeps her chin up like she's daring the world to pity her. You can see the little girl she used to be hiding behind that tough exterior, the one who learned early that softness got you hurt. She says she doesn't trust easily, that she always has to protect herself before anyone else can hurt her first. And in that moment, it makes sense. The control, the defensiveness, the sharp tone. It's not about Luke. It's about survival. Because when love has always meant pain, sometimes you build walls so high that no one can climb them without getting cut on the way up. Luke sits beside her during that confessional, nodding, holding her hand, trying to look supportive. But the silence between them feels loaded. It's not connection, it's tension disguised as understanding. He says he gets it, that he sees her pain. She nods, but her eyes say she doesn't believe him. And that's the tragedy. She's spent so long expecting abandonment that she can't recognize when someone's actually trying. Trauma makes you crave control, even when control costs you peace. It's easy to feel empathy here. Anyone watching can understand why Madeline fights so hard. She grew up having to raise herself, to anticipate chaos, to prepare for the moment people leave. That kind of fear doesn't disappear when you fall in love. It just wears new clothes. Sometimes love becomes the new battlefield where old wounds demand to be seen. But empathy doesn't mean exemption. You can understand why someone reacts the way they do without excusing what it does to others. When she lashes out, it's not because she's evil. It's because she's scared. Still, fear doesn't make cruelty okay. The problem isn't that she feels too much, it's that she refuses to sit with the feeling before turning it into blame. Luke, in his own way, enables it. He treats her pain like a project to fix instead of a reality to respect. He keeps trying to be the hero in her story when she never asked for one. Maybe he thinks if he's patient enough, she'll finally see him as different from the men who left her. But love built on proof is fragile. It needs constant defense. And every time she tests him, every time he tries to prove his loyalty, the bond stretches thinner. Because if you have to keep proving you're safe, you were never trusted to begin with. Her story deserves compassion, but compassion doesn't mean silence. It means telling the truth gently. Trauma explains behavior. It doesn't justify harm. And that's the line this couple keeps crossing, mistaking explanation for permission. You can feel the tension tightening, the way both of them are running out of patience and empathy at the same time. Now the question shifts from, why does she act this way, to something deeper. If she knows her past burns this hot, why step into a relationship that keeps feeding the fire? And maybe the harder question is, why does Luke stay close to the flames knowing he's getting burned too? Luke's story has always come with a shadow. Even before Madeline entered the frame, the internet had already formed an opinion about him. People called him calculated, emotionless, or too calm to be real. Others defended him, saying he was trying to change, to prove that his past didn't define him. But every time he sits on camera with that blank, polite smile, viewers can't decide whether they're watching a man trying to grow or someone rehearsing redemption. He carries himself like a peacemaker. The steady voice, the small nods, the apologetic tone, it all reads as restraint. But look closer, and you can see how that calm is selective. He knows when to stay quiet, when to let her talk over him, and when to play the patient victim. That's not passivity, that's control in disguise. He's rewriting the narrative one scene at a time, showing audiences the side of himself he wants them to believe. It's clever. It's also unnerving. Every time Madeline lashes out, Luke doesn't interrupt. He waits, lets her anger fill the air until it's uncomfortable, and then softly says something like, "I understand." It sounds mature, but it also traps her. Because now she's not just angry, she's defensive. He's framed himself as the rational one, the victim of her volatility. And in doing so, he makes her look worse without saying a word. When silence is used to win, it's not patience, it's strategy. The audience reaction online proves it. Every clip gets dissected. One half says he's a saint for putting up with her, that he deserves better. The other half says he's manipulating the situation to look like the good guy, feeding on sympathy. Both can be true. People with complicated pasts often learn to survive by controlling perception. And Luke, whether consciously or not, plays that game well. He doesn't explode, doesn't defend himself publicly, doesn't take bait during arguments. That calm exterior becomes his armor. But inside that stillness, there's calculation. The same guy who looks powerless in front of her is the one who knows exactly how to make the camera love him. It's why fans argue about him endlessly, because he gives everyone enough to believe whatever they already want to believe. The irony? He talks a lot about trust, but you can feel that even his apologies are curated. They sound rehearsed, trimmed for sound bites, perfect for a man who knows he's being filmed. Madeline might throw words like knives, but Luke uses silence like poison. Slow, invisible, and hard to notice until the damage is done. Is it emotional restraint or emotional theater? That's what no one can agree on. When you've lived through public judgment, you start performing your innocence even when no one's asking. Luke's every gesture feels intentional. The lowered tone, the gaze into her eyes when she cries, the soft voice during confrontation. It's like he's both comforting her and reminding the audience he's the reasonable one. And that works until you realize he's never once held her accountable or himself. He keeps saying he wants peace, but peace without truth is just silence with subtitles. So we're left with two images of Luke, the gentle partner trying to make love work, and the opportunist who knows conflict equals screen time. And maybe that's why he stays. Maybe he's not afraid of losing Madeline at all. Maybe he's afraid of losing the storyline that makes him relevant. Because the question that lingers isn't whether he loves her, it's whether he loves the attention more. Money always tells the truth a relationship tries to hide. The moment Luke brings it up, everything else, the romance, the apologies, the promises, goes silent. In one episode, he reminds Madeline that he's paying most of the bills, trying to make a point about shared responsibility. But the way it lands? Cold. She freezes, then smirks, and the temperature drops in the room. To her, it's not about contribution, it's about control. The second he mentions finances, she hears superiority. It's not, "I'm helping us," it's, "I own this." And she fires back fast. "I don't need your money," she says, even though both of them know the cameras are rolling in a house he pays for. That's the game they play. Who needs who less? One wave of his wallet, one hit of her pride. They don't talk about budgeting, they talk about power. And the way they use that word support is wild. When he says it, he means security. When she hears it, she hears shame. That's the thing about couples who measure worth in bills. Every dollar becomes a scoreboard. Luke tries to explain that he wants to build a stable life for both of them, but his tone gives away the real message. It's not about teamwork, it's about proof. He wants credit for being the reliable one, for carrying the weight she throws off in anger. But Madeline doesn't like feeling indebted. Her pride is louder than her gratitude, so instead of appreciation, he gets sarcasm. "Congratulations," she says. "Do you want a medal or a refund?" When love turns into a transaction, someone always ends up feeling like property. She's not innocent in this dynamic either. When she's mad, she throws money like a weapon too. She'll talk about her own independence, her own earnings, the job offers she gave up. It's her way of saying, "You're not the reason I'm here." But that's not true either. Both of them benefit from this setup. He likes being needed, and she likes reminding him she can leave. That's why they keep replaying this same argument, because power feels safer than vulnerability. At one point, he tells her, "I'm not trying to make you feel small." She cuts in with a laugh. "Too late." That line sums them up. Every conversation turns into competition. Every compromise becomes a scoreboard. The relationship stopped being about us the moment both started defending I. In English, it's simple. Ye love nahi, power game hai. One pays rent, the other rents emotions. Both want receipts. And the audience can see it plain as day. This isn't partnership. It's a tug-of-war dressed like commitment. If they can't split dinner without turning it into a debate, how will they handle paperwork, kids, or visas? Money doesn't cause their problems. It reveals them. Luke sees it as proof that he's reliable. Madeline sees it as proof he's controlling. He thinks she's ungrateful. She thinks he's using her dependence against her. Neither is wrong, but both are stuck in a loop that love alone can't fix. And that's what makes their future look so fragile. Because if this much resentment already lives inside their small apartment, what happens when life gets bigger, louder, and legally binding? When bank accounts merge, when immigration gets involved, when one signature ties them together in ways apologies can't undo? The fights about dinner money are never about dinner. They're practice for something bigger, something neither of them seems ready for. And watching them, you get the sense they're not building a marriage. They're building a courtroom where love will always be on trial. It always starts the same way, with a spark that turns into a wildfire. One comment too sharp, one look too long, and suddenly Luke and Madeline are back in their favorite routine. Fight, cry, apologize, repeat. Viewers have seen it so many times they could write the subtitles themselves. She raises her voice, he lowers his. She storms off, he follows. She cries, he comforts. For a moment, it looks like healing. Then boom, back to square one before the tears even dry. Their body language tells the whole story. Madeline leans forward when angry, finger pointed, chin high. Luke leans back, hands in his lap, nodding as if surrender will make it stop. The rhythm never changes. Her tone is clipped, his tone is pleading. She wants control, he wants quiet. Together, they create chaos that somehow feels normal. When she says she's sorry, she does it through tears that sound genuine. When he forgives her, he sounds tired, like he's reading from a script. And the next morning, they act like nothing happened. Every apology in that house comes with an expiration date. In one episode, after yet another screaming match, they sit on the couch holding hands. She admits she's been difficult, that she reacts too fast, that she's scared of losing him. Luke nods, tells her it's okay, that he understands. The audience exhales for a second, hoping maybe this time they'll actually change. But not even 10 minutes later, she's snapping at him for something small. A misplaced word, a tone she didn't like. It's almost comical how fast they reset the drama. The camera crew doesn't even need new footage. They could loop old scenes and no one would notice. This is what emotional exhaustion looks like with a TLC filter. The couple that promised a clean slate now looks like they're painting over the same wall with transparent paint. They keep saying, "We'll try again," but neither of them ever defines what try means. Luke's version of peace is silence. Madeline's version of effort is confession. They're not solving problems. They're managing explosions. There's a moment where Luke says, "Let's start fresh," and she nods, smiling through tears. But if you watch closely, her jaw stays tight, eyes blinking fast like she's holding something back. That's not peace, that's pause. She's not done being angry, she's just reloading. And Luke, poor Luke, mistakes it for progress. Some couples fight to win, but Luke and Madeline fight to survive the silence between fights. Their dynamic feels painfully familiar to anyone who's ever stayed in a cycle that promised change but delivered chaos. You can see yourself in their patterns, the way you told yourself, "This time is different," the way you clung to small good moments like proof things were improving. That's why viewers don't turn away. It's not just drama, it's recognition. Watching them is like watching your own worst relationship habits on replay. Luke keeps saying he wants to stop arguing, that he's hopeful, that love can fix it. And maybe he believes it. but hope in this story feels less like light and more like denial. He smiles, hugs her, whispers something off mic about moving forward. The audience knows better. Because when someone says they're hopeful while standing in emotional quicksand, it's not a promise, it's a countdown. Healthy conflict doesn't look like what we see with Luke and Madeline. It's not about who talks louder or who cries first. In a normal disagreement, people pause, breathe, listen, and try to fix the issue instead of each other. One person says, "I felt hurt when you did that." The other replies, "Okay, I hear you. Let's figure out what to do next." It's not perfect, but it's grounded. There's respect, there's curiosity, there's space to be human without being humiliated. Now look back at Luke and Madeline. There's no pause, no reflection, no reset. Their conversations start as misunderstandings and end as power struggles. She treats emotions like weapons. He treats silence like a shield. They both talk about love, but neither demonstrates it when it counts. Because love isn't how you hold hands when it's easy. It's how you behave when things get hard. If you can't talk without tearing each other down, that's not communication. It's competition. Think about what healthy conflict actually needs: timing, tone, and accountability. Luke and Madeline don't have any of those. Timing? They argue when emotions are at their highest, not when solutions are possible. Tone? Hers cuts, his disappears. Accountability? Neither sticks around long enough to finish the cleanup. Every problem gets buried under new promises instead of real change. It's like trying to fix a crack by painting over it. Looks better for a day, worse by the week. What makes it sad is how simple the difference could be. A healthy couple takes a time out when things get heated. They come back when they can actually hear each other. They use small words for big feelings. Luke and Madeline do the opposite. They double down. The louder it gets, the less they hear. The more they apologize, the less they change. It's all performance, no progress. Real growth requires doing the uncomfortable thing, pausing mid-fight and saying, "This isn't working." Neither of them ever says that. Not once. They say, "I love you." They say, "Let's try again." They say, "I'm sorry." But no one says, "We need help." There's no talk of counseling, no suggestion of space, no acknowledgement that the same fight keeps happening because both are repeating their worst instincts. They're not fixing, they're recycling. By now, viewers can feel the fatigue. You want to reach through the screen and tell them to stop, to breathe, to listen. But you also recognize pieces of yourself in them. The urge to stay because leaving feels like failure. The way you tell yourself it's not that bad. The excuses you whisper. It's just stress. They didn't mean it. It's love. So here's the real question I leave hanging. If you saw your own relationship in theirs, the fights, the apologies, the silence that pretends to be peace, what would you do differently? Would you stay? Would you walk? Or would you finally reset the rules before love starts feeling like survival? The wedding weekend creeps up like an exam no one studied for. The decorations are up, the smiles are back. But everything feels forced, rehearsed, a bit too shiny for two people still recovering from their last argument. Madeline tells the camera she wants a clean slate, and Luke nods like a student repeating a line for extra credit. They're sitting on opposite ends of the couch, bodies stiff, pretending this talk is about logistics when both know it's about survival. He says, "Let's keep it drama-free," and she agrees too quickly. Her tone is calm, maybe too calm, the calm that comes from exhaustion, not peace. You can feel the silence stretching between them, each waiting for the other to say what they're actually thinking, that this wedding might be a mistake. But neither does. The cameras are rolling, the story must go on. And in reality, TV pretending is its own kind of currency. Luke's smile twitches. He talks about how far they've come, how much they've overcome, how he still believes in them. He keeps using words like progress and future, but they sound hollow, like he's trying to convince himself. Madeline nods, eyes darting toward the window, the kind of look you give when you're listening, but your mind is somewhere else. The air is thick with everything unsaid. Sometimes silence in a relationship isn't peace. It's a truce between two exhausted soldiers. Then comes the dark humor moment that saves the scene from breaking. She teases him about how nervous he looks, and he jokes, "I should be. I never know when you'll change your mind." They laugh, but it's uneasy, that kind of laughter you do when you both know the joke isn't funny. It's the sound of denial in stereo. She says she wants to feel safe walking into marriage. He says he wants to be trusted. Two valid wishes, but they never meet in the middle. Safety and trust require vulnerability, and both of them are allergic to it. Madeline doesn't want to admit how scared she is to be abandoned again, and Luke doesn't want to admit he's terrified of being blamed forever. Instead, they promise not to fight this weekend. Like peace can be scheduled. They go through motions. Flowers, guest lists, cake tastings, but the joy feels borrowed. Even the crew seems to sense it. The camera lingering on long silences, forced kisses, polite laughter. It's that awkward calm before the emotional storm. You can feel the pressure of all the unresolved mess sitting just beneath the surface, waiting for one wrong word to explode. Luke keeps talking about love like it's a mission statement. Madeline listens, head tilted, eyes shiny but unreadable. You can't tell if she's touched or trapped. He reaches for her hand and she lets him, but there's hesitation. Tiny, almost invisible, but enough to make every viewer shift uncomfortably in their seat. This isn't romance anymore. It's damage control in wedding clothes. They end the talk with promises to focus on the good. The music swells, the camera pans out, and the viewer is left with that uneasy feeling. This isn't a new beginning. It's the same story dressed up for one last performance. And as the scene fades, the question lingers longer than any vow could. Is this love, trauma bonding, or two people too scared to admit they picked the wrong partner? On international television, with everyone watching? By the time the credits roll, everyone watching looks a little drained. Not because the story surprised them, but because it didn't. We've all seen this pattern before. Two people stuck in a loop of apology and hope, calling it love when it's really survival. The camera might have followed Luke and Madeline, but the reason their story hits so hard is because it mirrors something too many people have lived. The way they argue, the way they forgive without changing, the way they hold each other while silently keeping score. It's exhausting because it's familiar. Viewers start out angry at her, then at him, then at both. The show gives us villains and victims, but what we're left with are two broken people trying to outlove their pain, and that's where the lesson hides. Emotional abuse doesn't become acceptable because the target is a man. It's still abuse, still damaging, still chipping away at someone's confidence until all that's left is compliance. Luke's quiet may look noble, but it's not peace. It's self-erasure. And Madeline's anger may come from hurt, but that doesn't make it safe. Hurt people don't get to keep hurting others and call it healing. Love without boundaries isn't compassion, it's chaos. Trauma needs care, not a punching bag. And growth requires more than saying sorry on camera. Real change means noticing the pattern and doing the opposite, even when it feels uncomfortable. For anyone watching who saw their own reflection in this mess, maybe you've been the one walking on eggshells, or maybe you've been the one throwing emotional grenades. This is your warning sign. If every argument ends the same, if peace feels temporary, if you spend more time recovering from love than enjoying it, it's not working. Luke and Madeline show us what happens when two people refuse to admit they're incompatible because admitting it feels like failure. But staying in dysfunction is the bigger failure. You don't fix a fire by standing in it. You step back before it consumes you. The truth is simple. Love can survive conflict, but it can't survive disrespect. An apology without behavior change is not growth. It's a rerun. Some viewers will still root for them because hope is addictive. You want to believe they'll finally wake up, that maybe next episode they'll listen, that maybe this wedding will fix everything. But deep down, everyone knows this relationship is already over. It's just waiting for one of them to say it out loud. As the season closes, the camera pans to their separate faces, her expression proud but tired, his soft but hollow. They look united, but the distance between them could fill a continent. The show fades to black, leaving behind more questions than closure, and maybe that's the point. Because the real takeaway isn't about Luke or Madeline, it's about what we accept in the name of love. If you ever find yourself explaining away pain as passion or mistaking endurance for strength, pause. Real love doesn't require you to lose yourself to keep someone else. You don't have to win the argument. You have to win your peace. And if you thought this was bad, Wait until you see what happens when another 90-day fiancé couple lets control and fame push them to the edge. That story is coming next on TLC Drama Live, where love and ego collide, and no one walks away the same.